We understand, kind of, for those of you joining us for the first time and those of you returning, it's a time of excitement after, sort of months of, I'd imagine, sort of some frustration of being kind of, cooped up at home or wherever. But it will also, for some of you, be a time of anxiety. I mean, that's as you start a new year or as you join us for the first time. That's normal, even under normal circumstances. So, as I say, we recognise that you've all experienced a very disruptive end to your final school, college, or year, or your last semester here. For those of you returning to us, you've got the benefit of some familiarity with this sort of technology that we're using at the moment, and with studying remotely from the kind of emergency pivot to online last semester. But for others, this might all be quite new to you. Or at least, this particular kind of, sort of virtual learning environment will be new to you. But just to reassure you, we understand that, and support is available to you. In terms of, some of you will sort of seen a version of a sort of slide like this before, and it's really just to sort of very briefly touch on this notion of academic engagement. And I just want to sort of touch on this before I talk about some of the adaptations to our usual way of doing things. There's substantial evidence that there's a strong correlation between how you engage with your educational activities, but also the activities that the university offers, support the university offers beyond your specific programme, and positive outcomes in terms of student success and development, including academic persistence and achievement, satisfaction, social enjoyment, and career success. So kind of, sort of put very simply, the more you engage and the more deeply and broadly you engage with the life of the university, the programs, but the student union, the student services and so on, the more you'll get out of university, the better you'll succeed, and the kind of, the better and more diverse your career options. And this engagement really kind of has three elements to it. Participation being the most obvious. We need you to turn up, whether that's on campus or to turn up to your online kind of synchronous sort of live sessions, as it were, and engage with those, engage with the online lectures, and do your assignments, complete them on time, and also do the, beyond the programs. Participation is also about behaving in line with the university's guidelines, both academic and the kind of COVID guidelines that we have to keep us all So going to university, as I've said to some of you previously, it's like gym membership. Joining the gym isn't what makes you fit. It's putting the hours in, or at least so I'm told anyway, when it comes to gyms. But it's also about engaging with the life beyond the program, as I say. It is about engaging with the broader life of the university and the sort of things that Jessica, Chiara, and Andy will be talking about. And in particular, it's about asking for help when you need it, not when the difficulty you're having starts to have an impact on your progression and on your attendance. So, if you have a problem, your first port of call is your personal academic tutor, but there's also student services and the student union. So we would sort of strongly advise you to take advantage of those when you need to. Belonging is this sort of second aspect of academic engagement, and that's going to be more of a challenge this year because of the sort of, because of physical distancing and sort of social distancing, the sort of constraints that we're under, having to adopt a more blended mode of delivery rather than, lots of time on campus and in rooms and sort of, the kind of, the sort of teaching rooms and mixing, without that, or without, with that reduced a lot. Developing a sense of belonging will be tougher, but it's really important that you do what you can to develop that sense of belonging to a community of students, because that will help in your resilience and help your sense of, sort of being part of a community of learners. And finally, there's this notion of investment, which really is about going beyond the basic participation requirements and relishing the challenge of your academic study, but relishing other challenges as well, through the sort of sports and society opportunities, as adapted as they may be for this semester that the student union offers, for instance. So anyway, to sort of sum up, what the research tells us is the more you engage, more broadly engaged, the more deeply you engage, the more likely you are to stay on course, achieve excellent results as you have done to get here, and to gain graduate level employment in your chosen field. Now, that engagement, as I say, is going to be slightly different this year, as you're aware, and as some of you will have already experienced. So this semester, we're delivering our sort of programs through what's often referred to as blended learning. So a mix of face-to-face and online teaching. And we've worked hard to ensure, recognizing how important developing a sense of belonging is, that you all get the opportunity to come on campus every week for kind of face-to-face interaction with each other and with academic staff. But clearly, physical sort of social distancing really restricts the number of people we can have in a sort of general teaching room, which is down to 9. You know, these are rooms that would sort of hold up to 60 normally, and so that and therefore kind of, you know, sort of limits the amount of time we're able to give you on campus. We've tried to give you as much as we can, but there are clearly limits to that. We would ask you when you're on campus for a teaching session that you still sort of swipe in, use your kind of, you know, your smart cards, your student cards to swipe into the classroom, because that will help us in the event of us needing any information in terms of track and trace. If a student sort of is sort of diagnosed as having COVID-19, it means we can kind of, you know, track and trace those people who are in kind of, you know, kind of close contact with them. It also continues to help us reaching out to those students who are maybe sort of struggling, not attending, and need some support in engagement. We're kind of, you know, the Scottish Government is keen that we kind of, you know, sort of remind you of some of the kind of the key aspects of being safe under COVID. Most obvious, which is if you're feeling unwell, if you've got symptoms of coronavirus or someone you live with has, please stay at home and contact, you know, by phone the main reception, or if you're staying in the halls of residence, you know, you can contact the kind of student accommodation reception there. Complete the normal absence form on the student portal and tell your programme leader. If you're not sure and you should have had a letter from the Scottish Government, you know, there are links on the NHS Scotland website that sort of talk about the differences between the common cold and coronavirus. And we would also sort of, you know, remind you of the kind of key facts that the Scottish Government are using as a way of reminding us, you know, of keeping safe at these times. Face coverings for us, that means, I mean, simply speaking, if you're standing up, if you're in the university building and you're standing up, you should have a face covering on. If you're sitting down, you can take it off because all the seats are configured in a socially distant way. So, you know, here in the atrium or in the classroom, you can take your face mask off. The exception, unfortunately, is the library, where Scottish Government guidelines require you to kind of, you know, to keep your face mask on in the library, even if you're sitting down. Not in the study rooms of the library, but in the library itself. You'll see there's a thermal camera when you come in. You don't have to stop and smile, although, you know, I'm sure the security staff would sort of, you know, would welcome that if you do. You can just kind of walk on through, just past it. It sort of works pretty quickly. But that's one of the many sort of, you know, adaptations that we've made to try and keep you as safe as you can, and our staff safe as we can when they're on campus. The other thing, before I come to the responsibility agreement, you'll be aware that just last week, Scottish Government launched their Scottish Track and Trace app. Protect Scotland is available on, you know, in all the usual places that you'd get an app from. If you use it for the first time on campus, when you first open it, you might need to temporarily turn the Wi-Fi off to complete the registration process once you've downloaded it, but then you can sort of switch it on again as usual. Don't know why I had to do that. Various other people have had to do that, but it all works fine from there on in. We have asked you all to kind of, you know, read and sort of and click to indicate that you agree to the QMU responsibility agreement. And I should say, this is we've asked staff as well as students to complete this. You'll be aware that there is a spike in current infections that's particularly acute among younger people. However, I should say, to pick out young people and suggest that infections are rising due to their behaviour is, to quote one of the government's own sage advisors, inaccurate, unfair and inadvisable. We all have a responsibility to act cautiously to avoid the spread of infection, and as I say, staff as well as students have signed the responsibility agreement. The halls of residence, understandably, will be a kind of, you know, a particular area that we need to keep a reasonably kind of close eye on. It's a sort of potential area of concern, given the way in which households generally are seen as one of the sites in which kind of infections can and do spread. You know, you've seen that in Glasgow. We have had a few incidents of staff not following the Scottish Government guidance, and I know that kind of, you know, the guidance has changing. Last weekend was apparently very good. We didn't have to bring the police out, which is always for the best. And I appreciate it's been a really frustrating time for you, and that this should be, frankly, a time of intense social gathering. as you start the new semester, but unfortunately that's just not possible under the in the current situation. So we do ask you to act responsibly and carefully and with care for each other. I mean, it's in the interest of all of us to work together to ensure that we are able to continue to operate as we are, to avoid further restrictions and to see the current restrictions, you know, sort of relaxed. So the more we behave in lines with the guidance, the swifter those restrictions will be lifted, which is obviously in all of our interests. I don't want to end there. You know, what I do want to end by saying is, you know, I hope you have a fantastic time. I should have said, as Bill has said in the chat, that we can we've got time for questions at the end. Be helpful if you can type them into the chat, but we'll pick up the questions at the end. Any we can't answer, we'll sort of answer in a kind of FAQ, which will post up alongside the induction on the induction website. So I'll hand over now to Jessica, who's head of student services.
Hello there and welcome. I'm Jessica Lindhoff and I'm the head of student services. And just kind of hope most of you are probably returning students because that's what this talk was targeted towards, but there might be some new ones as well. So I'll run through some of the services we offer for you. For those who might have forgotten or who haven't heard about it before. So student services, we're back on campus and we are seeing students both face-to-face appointments and online appointments, depending on what suits you, really, and what you prefer. So we are back, and so you can kind of get us. And so in terms of the services we offer, again, you probably know some of these already. So our wellbeing and counselling service are back on campus, and they're there to support your mental, emotional, physical health. I think what I would like to highlight is do not wait until any problems get too big. Just come and talk to somebody. We're kind of living in extraordinary times at the moment. There will be additional anxiety and stress around the coronavirus, but also about your studies and things like that. So do come and talk to somebody. There will be somebody available to talk to you either online or in person. And all appointments for the wellbeing and counselling are done online. So we do through Student Central. So you just need to go on to Student Central and book your appointments. We don't do any drop-ins this term because we're trying to limit the number of people waiting around in the area. So, but we can always find an appointment on short notice. And if in doubt, just kind of catch up at the reception and ask for an appointment to be made for you if you struggle to make one. In terms of our other service, in terms of disability service, so those of you who have a disability hopefully have already found the disability service if you are returning students. If you're new students, if you do have a disability and haven't already engaged with the service, do seek us out. We provide you with information, support and guidance for students with disabilities, and we will do a needs assessment and look at what suitable adaptations there are for you. This year things are slightly different, so if you already have an ILP and you might be studying from home and need some adaptation to that ILP, do get in touch and we'll look what we can do for you. Again, getting in touch and making an appointment is through Student Central, and you can choose a face-to-face appointment or an online appointment, whatever suits you. And if in doubt, you could also email the service and just find an appointment that way. The Student Funding Service supports students who find themselves in financial hardship, and they will provide advice and guidance to students about what's available to them and how we can support them. We have this financial hardship fund that students can apply to if they are struggling, and we also have support for students who register childcare costs. And this year we have also some funds for students who are facing digital poverty, because obviously so much of their studying is online, so that is something we're trying to address this year. This might be a good year for you to also engage with the Careers and Employability Service. We find that many students do not engage with the Careers and Employability Service until maybe later on in their studies, but I would stress that it's never too early to engage with careers. It's always good to get some career advice. They can advise you on your modules, what is the best career path for you. If you're not really sure of whether you're on the right path, they can kind of support you with that as well. We have a jobs fair. It'll be an online jobs fair this year, planned for beginning of October. So there'll be some information out about that. They could also help you with information about jobs and help develop your skills, things like interview skills and CVs and things like that. They also do things around work experience and volunteering and some mentoring. So yeah, so do seek them out. Again, appointments are through Student Central and can be face-to-face or online, depending on what suits you. Finally, most of you, if you are returning students, hopefully are registered with the GP, but if you're not, make sure you become registered with the GP. If you have moved as well, you might need to change your GP registration because you need to register where you live. So make sure you look into that. There's a couple of links there that's useful for you, where you can find a local medical practice, which is the Riverside practice, and you can sign up online with them through that link. Or if you're not sure what your local GP surgery is, you can use the link at the bottom of this presentation to find the directory, which will tell you what your closest medical centre is. So we have just kind of republished our student handbook. So we got the Student Services Handbook, and you can get an online version through that link that's there. We also have some hard copies on campus, so they're and in accommodation and student union, so you can probably find it somewhere else if you want a hard copy as well. And most information about student services are in there, so if it's anything you wonder about, you can probably find it in there. You could also look at our website and the web page for student services to see what supports are available to you. And if something you can't find, or you want to ask us something, you can just email us on the studentservices@cubemimu.ac.uk. And finally, a few contact details. So for our various services, so if you are wanting to talk to somebody, if you want to kind of find out a bit more about any of the services, then you could just email them directly, or you can make an appointment through Student Central. And this presentation will be available to you after the talk as well, so don't feel like you have to retain all the information at this point. And I think that is me, and I will be handing over to, I'm not sure whether it's Chiara or Andy.
Hello, it's Chiara. Hi everyone, thanks Jessica and Richard. So I'm Chiara, I'm your student president for this year, and I'm here with Andy, who's the vice president at the Students' Union. So we'll just kind of run you through how we're operating this year at the Students' Union and any sort of updates that we put in place to sort of adapt to the new situation and remind you what's in place already. So this year, Andy and I will be working with a new officers team that was elected in March by yourself, possibly. And these are them. So if you see them on campus, feel free to stop. But the officers team this year will be operating mostly online. So we'll be doing campaigns and sort of our usual forums online mostly. But feel free to get in touch with the officers or with myself and Andy if there are any issues that pertain to any of our areas. This is still our representation structure, so we'll still be running forums and committees, and this year more than ever really we want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback, whether that's negative or positive, hopefully, but really want to hear how you're getting on. So please do engage with us in our forums and just talking to us, getting in touch through our social media or emails. And Andy and I will also be holding pop-up unions, again mostly online, but we'll try and do some things on campus as well if you are around. We will still be offering our support services through the Help Zone. So the Help Zone will be operating, again, both online and face-to-face, and there is a link to book appointments. So we'll be operating on an appointment-only basis just to sort of ensure safety in the office. And the Help Zone offers confidential advice and support, and we specialize in support with academic matters like academic appeals and complaints. But it's really anything that you need support with. You can either come to the Help Zone or go to Student Service or your personal academic tutor. So don't be scared to get in touch with any of us. We also keep offering a C-card service that's free condoms through the NHS. We have sort of adapted the way that we deliver free condoms, and they'll just be outside our office. So you can just pop up the stairs and grab what you need. With sanitary products, you will just have to come to the office and ask if you need anything, but there's also sanitary products in every toilet on campus. And so those will still be available. Therapets, which we usually offer this year, will be a bit different. We'll only have Rocco around, unfortunately. So as of now, due to the restrictions, we won't be able to operate our normal therapet sessions where we have usually 5 or 6 dogs to come chill with. But yeah, Rocco will be around, and we have some new entries in the office dog team as well, which you'll see later. So we'll now leave you to Andy, who will give you an update on societies.
Yes, hello. Yeah, as Chiara said, I'm Andy, and my kind of predominant role at the SU is to look after our sports and societies. So obviously there's been a fair amount of work being done over the summer by our committees to make sure that they're ready to go as soon as possible. And we're in a position now that from next Monday, some outdoor sport and most societies will be able to resume in different ways as well. They've all had to make adjustments to how they're operating, but the one thing that kind of remains is that they're committed to kind of providing a kind of valuable and positive experience for you guys on top of your studies. So as ever, all our social media and everything else will be loaded with sports and society stuff over the next few weeks. We can't overstate the importance that we think SNS are going to play this year. Opportunities for students are limited compared to previous years, and SNS is probably going to be the main kind of conduit that a lot of opportunities will come to you through. So definitely get involved, keep an eye on social media, message the committees on their social media. They're all just waiting to hear from you now and waiting to get going as much as you guys are. So be sure to take advantage of all of that. Just a quick note on Maggie's. I know returning students, you'll all know what Maggie's is, but for any attention to joining us, it's our on-campus bar and cafe. So it's open. It's done a roaring trade over the summer as they've kind of adjusted to all the different guidance. So they've tried and tested everything that they're working with day to day now. Given the extended uni timetable as well, they'll be serving food until I think 9 o'clock. Chiara, I'm looking at you, but 9 o'clock, yeah. So yes, we'd also usually talk to you about all the different fun events and things like that we run throughout the year. Obviously, Freshers Week doesn't look the same. Some or all of you may know. We're kind of working with a Welcome to QMU program, which has got a lot of different opportunities and activities for people to essentially meet new people and make friends. So if that is a concern of yours coming back or joining the university, there are a number of different opportunities and activities to get involved in throughout September, and we're going to be continuing to run whatever we do. Basically, is going to be scoped towards offering students the opportunity to get involved and take advantage of what we can do, given all the very restrictive government guidance we've got. So yes, that is where you'll find us. We are upstairs from Maggie's. However, we are using online booking forms now. So if you want to meet with any of us, I mean SNS stuff, you'd arrange a meeting with me, just follow that booking link on the screen there just now. But apart from that, we're all very excited, students back on campus, and just to have that kind of campus buzz back again. So be sure to stop us if you're new, returning, whatever you are, just stop and grab us for a wee chat. So yeah, I think now questions for anybody, not just us, but anybody you've heard from today, if you want to fire them into the chat and go ahead. And I'll pass back to Richard, I suppose. But.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And as Andy says and as Bill says, if you've got any questions, then feel free to type them into the chat. While you're thinking about that, what I can add is that we've the kind of atrium, so the area, once you're through when you know where the atrium is, the main building, once you're through the reception, the whole area, sort of basically Starbucks down to 1875 has been sort of redesignated as kind of sort of hospitality space. Clearly some of it already was Starbucks in 1875. That means that we're able to operate kind of 1 meter plus social distancing, which is obviously kind of sort of somewhat more sociable than the kind of 2 meter social distancing. So as ever, do feel free to use that space. We're going to extend the Starbucks opening hours till 10 o'clock in the evening from Monday to Friday. partly recognising that some of you have classes in the evening, and Starbucks will be open. Sorry, Maggie's is open for food. I think kind of till 9 p.m. Monday through to Sunday, and for drinks obviously until after 11. So do feel free to make use of that whole space, down from reception right the way through to and including 1875. It will feel sparser because of sort of social distancing, but we have been able to adapt it for kind of as a hospitality setting. So you're sort of at 1 meter plus. I'm not yet seeing any questions. Oh, Rachel, excellent. Anyone else on student parking? Yeah, so I have an update that, in fact, what we're doing is, at the moment, as you know, we've kind of said we'll not start charging for kind of, the normal parking charges. Parking charges won't start until, initially we'd said later September. We're now pushing that back into October. So there won't be any charging for parking into some point in October. We'll issue an update on that, probably in the next kind of, sort of moderator update. And the parking will offer a kind of variety of options, recognizing that people are often only coming on campus for sort of short periods of time. So there'll be you can get sort of just pay for a day's parking or half a day's parking. But we should have an update on that next week in the kind of moderator message. But what I can say is that there won't be any charging until some point in October, which partly explains the delay for the app. So, Jeanette, what's happening for students with health conditions that can't be on campus in relation to? Yeah, so we're if students are unable to attend campus either because they're, as you suggest, either for health reasons, they might be self-isolating. We might still have some students who are kind of formally required to quarantine because they've come from, they're within that 2-week quarantine period still. Then we are kind of enabling those students to kind of to study remotely, and that's a bit, I mean, obviously quite a lot of the sessions are sort of remote anyway, using Blackboard and Collaborate and the kind of recorded lectures. For the on-campus sessions that they're missing, they can either, depending on the nature of the session, they can either join that session remotely using Collaborate, so they get a Collaborate link, or they'll get a sort of an alternative session. Partly depends on the nature of the session itself and how many students there are in that situation. And attendance, yeah, we've while as I said, it helps us in terms of track and trace and kind of keeping an eye on student well-being. If you swipe in when you go into a class, we're not operating, you won't be contacted by the school office for asking why you haven't attended classes. I mean, we recognise there are going to be all sorts of reasons at the moment why students can't attend. So we're not really monitoring attendance in that way. We're just collecting the data, as I say, purely for track and trace if required, and also just to ensure that if there are students who haven't engaged with us at all, either remotely or through coming onto campus, we'll kind of reach out to them through the wellbeing advisors. So hopefully that answers that aspect of that question. What we'll also intend to do, we've got the next senior leadership team meeting just next week, is we'll start talking about arrangements for semester 2, because we'd like to give you some, I mean, as you'll be aware, the picture changes, sort of weekly, and the government guidelines sort of change on a regular basis. But we do want to kind of give you some reassurance around what semester 2 is like. I know we've only just started semester 1, but what semester 2 looks like. Some of those will be provisional and will be dependent on any changes to government guidance. But we hope to give you some sort of indicative information about semester 2's timetable and so on. Before too long. Clearly wanted to, with the kind of sort of issues with the SQA and kind of sort of Ofqual and Irish Leaver Certificate exams, we had sort of that played havoc, frankly, with all the universities' sort of student numbers, which required some late adaptations to the timetable, and clearly we also have to adapt in line with the guidance. So providing sort of definitive information about the next semester's timetable at the moment is quite a challenge. Tracking attendance online. And again, as I say, it's not because we're going to follow you up and say, why weren't you at this session? It's just so, if it looks like someone might be, there might be things that are stopping them from attending, we want to, try and see if we can kind of remove any barriers. Blackboard does record, which is, as you know, is our virtual learning environment. It does, as a matter of course, kind of record on each module, the extent to which students are engaging with the module. It just provides sort of, general information in terms of, time spent online on a particular module, which is helpful for us in terms of academically, in terms of understanding, well, are there particular areas that people are struggling with and we maybe need to go over again. But yeah, that's broadly kind of Blackboard collects some of that data, not in an invasive way. It doesn't. It just gives us, it just lets us know if students on who we're expecting to be attending a particular module, have or haven't been engaging with the module, and if we haven't, it might indicate to us that there's that they've got a problem, that's something that's preventing them from engaging into the module, and we'll sort of reach out to them through the Stay On Course program. Any other questions for now? Obviously, if you do, as it happens with me anyway, someone asks you if you've got any questions, and then you remember them sort of, once they've gone away. What you can do, if you're unsure about anything, you've got your personal academic tutors and or your kind of program leaders are a good port of call if it's an academic question that you have that you kind of want an answer to. So I think it looks like there aren't any more questions for now. So I think we'll kind of bring this session to an end. It has been recorded, so we'll kind of we'll make it available. And as I say, we'll also be posting a kind of an FAQ drawing on the questions we've had from these various sessions and uploading that to the induction. And thanks very much for your thanks. And we hope you have a great time. We appreciate these are strange times, but we really hope that you have a kind of great time this year nonetheless. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone.